Is anyone still alive out there? We angered the YouTube gods and they've come to throw down their wrath. Minasan nihongo dekimasu ka? Okay. Hello. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Apparently, I don't know, other people also seem to be having that kind of problem with YouTube and the streaming, and it's like you can't fix it without actually contacting them. So we will make do. Okay. Anyway. Okay, konnichiwa. Okay, let's continue the lesson. Hopefully you can see this time. Do we need to go back to heart? Was that backwards too? Okay. Anyway, here we are with foot, right? The foot represents, so we have it here in the kanji about related to the path, and then here in this kanji, which means distant, right? The distance between two things. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the bushu for dog, right? So we know that this is dog, right? Now this is also dog. Now I want you to imagine it like here is like the dog's head, and like here's his paw, and like here's his other paw, and here's his tail, and he's like, you know, that's the dog. And so here, it shows up in this character alone. I was actually talking about this one before. Here the dog is supposed to represent, like, it's like supposed to be like a really scary, aggressive dog. And so it scares all the other people away, right? So that's what it's supposed to represent here. And that's why we get the character for alone or lonely. And then here in narrow, let me check my notes for this one. What did I have for this one? Oh, it was, for this one, it's that somebody is surrounded they're sort of like being surrounded and captured, and the dog is there and he's kind of like alert. So it's like this kanji, we now know it as to come. But it actually, this is supposed to be like a person, right? We have person here, and these things around the person are like people holding the person's hands at their side. And so the person's dog is like, arr! And he's like freaking out because the person is being narrowed in on, right? So that's why we get this character for narrow, because there are these forces encroaching in, and the dog is like very upset. Okay, next one. So this is the character for pig. So this is also usually for this plus this character is what we use for like the animal pig. And so this is just sort of like a simplified version of that, right? It like took this part out, and so now we just have this piece. And it appears here in this character for perform, because if you think back to like old versions of theater, like Greek theater, and I'm sure like Roman theater, Japanese theater also, people used to perform with masks, right? People would like be like, oh, I'm the bad guy, I'm gonna look angry. He looks too happy. Wait, I'm gonna be angry, and so he puts the angry mask on. Or I'm supposed to represent a forest animal, so I'm gonna wear this mask, right? So that's why we get it here in perform, right? Here's the pig. So I'm gonna wear a pig mask now in the pig creature. And here, this other piece of perform is from the kanji for tiger, right? So this piece here plus these little feet on the bottom make up the character for tiger. But so this is just a simplified version of that, right? Because it took the legs away, right? So now we just have a tiger mask, right? How do you draw a tiger? I guess it's like a cat, right? Rare, but like with teeth. It's like a vampire cat. Okay. Okay, next up we have person, right? So we know that this is our character for person, and this is just kind of like a squished up version of it, right? Right, we had this, and then we squish, and we get that. So here we have it in different characters that have to do with people, right? And people and the relationships between people and like people's bodies. So first we have I, right? Boku, so like a male pronoun, I. Here we have it in trust, makaseru. So this is you're putting your trust in another person, right? It's about human relationships. I know, we're back. We came out of the depths of hell just to bring this to you. The gods of YouTube threw down their thunder, but will never be put down. Okay. So, and then this is about the relationship between people also, like nakagai, right? Nakayoshi. So again, relationships between people. And then this is the bushu for people, and this is a symbol for building, right? So the building of a person is their health, right? How is their body built? How strongly is their body constructed? Hi. Welcome back. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay. What I hope everybody gets out of today is sort of like learning this this concept, right? This concept of taking kanji apart into its pieces. Because like ever since I started working on this book, honestly, I've started to see kanji in a whole new way. Like that's not even me just being like, oh, like because we made it, I'm trying to push it. Like no, like now when I look at kanji that I haven't even seen before, I'll be like, oh, that's harsh eyes, you know, because now that I've put a name to it, I can remember it, right? You put a name to the face, it's easier to remember. Okay, so this is a character for harsh eyes. Now, the usual character for eyes is this me, right? Now, this original character is supposed to be like the eyelids, right? That's eyelid, and this is the the iris or whatever. The iris and all the other parts, like the looking parts. Now, this is like really like you're like, you're like looking very harshly. You're like, you know how when you try to look really harsh, sometimes like you squint, or sometimes you'll open your eyes wide like this and you'll be like, so this one is that squinting version where you're trying to look very harshly. And so it shows up here in the character for punish, right? Because everybody's looking at you harshly like, oh, you did no good, you know? Welcome, welcome 外国人ようこそ日本語の森へ。日本語の森のなんか社員は本当になんか半分外国人だからめっちゃ楽しい。Okay. Okay. Next. Kanji is almost an emoji. That's basically what it is. It's basically 10,000-year-old emojis, and we're decoding them today. It's like when you try to teach your family what certain emoji, like your parents, what certain emojis mean. It's like that's what we're doing now, except our parents, someone's parents are teaching us. Okay. Now this is the one that I was saying before about how you're opening your eyes super wide and you're like you're like looking with binoculars, right? So harsh eyes again, and we have it here in tense, right? So you're tense, you're like, oh no. Okay, next we have mountain, right? And so this is supposed to be like, a mountain of land with multiple levels to it. Like, you know how like you have a mountain, it'll be like here, and then it goes like that again? That's what this is supposed to be, this little like, and so when you think of mountains, they're these huge things, and they're sort of like an obstacle, right? Like, let's say if I want to get from here to, I don't know, Osaka, and there's a big mountain in the way, that mountain is, jama. It's in my way. It's blocking me. And so when you think of the mountain, I want you to think of it like blocking you or limiting what you can do, right? So here it shows up in limit, and then here it shows up in block, right? Like fusegu, right? So the mountain, this character as a bushu, is serving as like a blocking jamana sonzai. Hello. Hello is all kanji reference to object. So some kanji are more obscure, like some have more obscure, like vague meanings. But like once we get to tsukuri, I'll explain a little bit more about like how sometimes the bushu in kanji were only meant to symbolize the yomikata at first, but then over time, because they were used in certain kanji, came to have a meaning ascribed to them just over like the development of language. So we'll go over that. Okay, this is meant to be, so here we have clothes, and so this is actually meant to be the image of something that is worn around the collar, right? Let me check my notes again. Collar of clothing worn around the body, right? So like here's your body, and then you like put the clothes around, you know, you stick your head through the little neck hole, and there's your head, right? There's the neck hole. So you stick the clothes over your head, and now it's on your body. And so the relationship here with suffer is this. So suffer, when we say suffer, it means like to receive something, like to suffer an attack or to suffer a loss, right? And when we use suffer in that way, it means like something was put onto us, you know, like a burden was put onto us. We're now carrying something on our shoulders. And so in this way, this like clothing collar meaning means that whatever bad thing happened, you're now carrying it with you. It's now like you have to hold it on you, like clothing. So yes, so that's the relationship here. Oh, is it still flashing? Oh my God, strobing. Let me fix it. I don't know, we can't see, it doesn't seem to be strobing from here, but, oh, okay, I'm gonna put on more dark clothing. Hold on one second. Apparently dark clothing fights the strobing effect. Okay. All right, let me see, I think my sprout got a little, okay. Sprout is daijoubu. Do we need more? Do I need a dark hat? LMAO. Okay. Okay, I was told this will help with the chika chika. Mada dame? あ、それ。うわ、ちょっと黒っぽいやつある？なんか社長のカップとか。We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for Hattori sensei. Okay, 大丈夫？大丈夫か？顔を隠さないといけない。Let's do the whole lesson like this. Okay, 大丈夫？大丈夫？ Okay, anyway, next one. No, it's so fine. Okay, not strobing anymore? That's great. So happy for you. So happy for all of us. So sorry for the technical difficulties, honestly. Okay. Oh boy, okay, this next one's a bird. Look at that bird. Okay, so this is like the bird's head. That's its beak. And these are its beautiful feathers, right? Beautiful feathers on the birdie. And now here's one example where this is a kanji for like mingling. So it's like a bunch of different things are together. And so it's like, for example, like here, it's like a tree and 9 different kinds of birds all mingling together. These creepy little birds. Sorry, the drawing is like horrifying. Okay. All the little birds mingling in the tree. Okay, next up, this is a blade, right? This is like the blade of a katana, right? That's supposed to be the sound of like a blade coming out of the thing, right? Oh, here's the blade. I mean, it's pretty long, but you know, okay. Blade, the thing. Yeah, so that's the blade. And then here it's coming out in things that are about like splitting or separating or carving, right? Right, we have separate, so we're just gonna go ha. This is also splitting, ha. And then this is carving, right? Carving a nice little wooden sculpture with our blade. Okay. Next, this is freeze. So this is actually supposed to represent icicles, right? You know, when it gets really cold and all of the condensation leaks down and then it freezes, right? So these are those icicles. And that's why it represents the cold. And here it's used in the kanji for freeze, right? So we have icicles, so it's cold and we freeze. Okay, next. Now this one looks a bit similar to clothing, but don't be fooled. This secondary little booba here shows us the difference. So this one is meant to be show. And there's actually a little bit of a complicated story behind this one. So here we have this character for show, right? So this is the kanji for show, shimesu. And this kanji is supposed to represent like a podium on which you put like offerings for God, right? So like, I don't know, fruits or something. I don't know, animals, whatever. I don't even know what that's supposed to be. And so you put these offerings for God, and God is like, oh, thank you, mortals. And so that's why this character from Kami-sama came to also have the meaning of show, right? So, yes, show. Yes, it is similar to close one, it just doesn't have the little blank. Right, so when you see this half of Kami-sama, know that it also means show, because you're putting things on the pedestal to show your thanks to God, or the gods, or whoever. And so here we have it in ancestors, right? So it's like showing respect to your ancestors. And then here we have it in thanks, right? Ore, as in showing thanks, right? Because in the past, the way that you showed like your reverence is that you offered things, right? You would offer fruits or animal sacrifices or whatever it was. Okay. Next up, this character. So we might know this character as Tsuki, as in the moon, but a lot of the time, and especially as a bushu, it has the meaning of like meat or flesh, right? It's the flesh of animals, including humans, right? So it's the flesh of animals, and the image itself is actually, it used to look something kind of like this, because it was supposed to be like literally like a stick of meat on the bone, right? It's like a turkey leg. So it's like a hunk of meat essentially. And that meat is then used a lot in kanji that have to do with the human body, right? So it's the human body parts, right? So like here we have stomach, here we have chest, and here we have arm, right? So when you see this character show up in something, it might, I mean, there's a high likelihood that it has to do with the human body. Or in other cases, it'll show up in things like pig, right? Because it's about the pig's flesh. Okay, next up we have bone, right? So this is the full kanji for bone, but see, oh, deta, flesh, right? There's meat on the bone, right? And so this is supposed to be like a bone, like a piece of bone with like a little hole in it, right? Because when there isn't meat on a bone, it has like these empty pieces on it. Sorry, I just have to fix my microphone so I can shut this thing. Okay. Okay. Yes, so when there's no meat on the bone, there's like those holes, right? Like, you know, you've seen a skeleton? You ever seen a skeleton? You know, even like in that Spooky Scary Skeletons music video. This is so hard to tie. Hold on. Koreka. Idiot tries to put on clothing live. Okay, I got it. Not Niku. No, that would be too simple. Right. So, right, so you've seen a skeleton. There's holes for the eyes and the nose and the ears, right? So that's what this whole thing is, right? So we got meat and bones to get bone. Okay. Next, this is hand, right? And so the way that I like to memorize that this is hands is like maybe hands crossed over each other, you know, like in this kind of shape. Like if I'm a person and I'm here, like here I am, here's my hands. Hands. And so here it comes up, this is the wrong kanji. Nande, ukeru kana? Check my notes. Okay, wow. Okay, So here, it's having to do with things that you do with your hands, right? So here we have take, right? Take, there you go. Here it's in protect. So you use your hands to protect people, like, oh, no, not my family. And then here it is in receive, right? So we have nails and hands. So we're like, oh, thank you, right? Because receiving is like this kind of motion, right? With your hands, palm, face, like this. Okay. This is also hands. Only difference is it's drawn like this, with this here and like that. So this again shows up in things that you do with your hands, basically. Here it's in attack, right? Because you know, the naritachi for this one is like you take a tool in your hands and you go bow, bow, bow. So that's why we get attack. This here is scatter, right? So it's like you take things and you're like, wow, you know, like confetti. And then here, this is arrange, right? So we're taking things, we're bundling them, right? This is the character for bundle. We'll go over that later. And then this is correct. So we're taking things with our hands, we're bundling them all in the correct order, right? Okay. Knitting. Let's go to next. Is it gonna load? Here we go. Okay. This is legs. So this is like, if you imagine a person sitting with their legs crossed, right? Like here I am, sitting with my legs crossed like that. And so here, an example of it is showing up in oriru, right? So we're going down. We're going down the mountain, right? Here we have down. And this is supposed to represent a seat or a chair. You know, it's somewhere that you sit down. So we're tired, so we're gonna walk down the mountain with our legs and sit in a chair. Okay. Now this is the picture of a person sitting on their knees, right? Like if you can imagine, like, you guys know seiza, you know? You sit on your feet like that. And so here we have it in this character for welcome, because it's supposed to represent, here we have this piece, which is the path, right? So this is a path, a road. So here's a road, and then there's a person sitting on the road, and they're ready to welcome the other person who's coming over. So this is supposed to represent two people, right? So we have the sitting person and the not sitting person, and the sitting person is like, hey, welcome to the road. And then here we have another instance of this where we have holding down, right? So here we're sitting, here's another person that's holding us down with their hands. They're like, don't get up, stay down, sit down. Okay, next we have a spear or a pole that you're holding in your hands, right? So the sort of naritachi of this one is supposed to be that it takes that meaning of hands, and then this up here is supposed to be like you're holding the weapon in your hand, right? And so it's usually like, you know, a spear-shaped kind of thing, a long thing with like decorations dangling off the end, which is why I assume that it's like, this is probably the sharp part, and then this is like the decorations dangling off of it. So we're holding the spear, and because we have that spear, it shows up in these weapons, It's a weapon, so it shows up in these kanji that have to do with attacking, right? So we have kill, koros, ding, and we have shoot, ding, right? Because I mean, you know, this character, you know, back in the day before guns were around, you would say like shoot an arrow, or you would still, you know, you shoot your weapon. It has to do with that projectile launching of a weapon. Okay, next up. Okay, so this is a tsukuri, and this is one of the tsukuri that I was referencing before when I was saying how mostly it affects the yomikata, but it also has come to have its own meaning. So this tsukuri has this meaning of pick out. And the reasoning is that it has to do with picking fruit from a tree, right? So if you look at this, this is supposed to be nails, right? So it's like, if this is your hand and these are like your little nails, you know, these are your little claws. And this is a tree, and you're picking all the fresh, delicious fruit from the tree, right? And so that's why it got that meaning for pick out, especially because it shows up here in this kanji, like for like saishu or other meanings of like you're picking things, right? So these have the same meaning. And then this meaning of colorful, the naritachi for this comes from a person with like long, beautiful hair purposely tries to pick a specific color for it. That's what the naritachi is said to be. It's like when you're purposefully picking a color, just like you would pick a colorful fruit from the tree, right? And then anything that's written in this memo tokoro, so anything that's memo, that is when the reading is usually this, right? The onyomi, I don't know what that sound was. The onyomi, oh my God, go away. Go away. What's going on? Okay, hold on. I will not tolerate any more technical difficulties. Okay. What? Go away. What's happening? Okay. The onyomi will usually be what's written in the memo spot. There are cases where it's not that, because honestly, kanji have so many different readings. But the good news is that, especially for the JLPT, and even just as like a regular person living in society in Japan, there's no necessity to learn all of them. You only really need to know a handful. And in fact, you only really need to know a handful of kanji in general. Like there's so many kanji that just exist, but that nobody uses and nobody knows how to read. So, Gaikokujin are not the only ones who will come across kanji they don't know how to read. Sorry, I don't know why the screen is giving me difficulty. Okay, come on. Come on, work with me. Work with me here. Okay, yes, sai. Sai. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, like picking the fields, exactly. Okay, next is this. So this means chest, and it has to do with the meaning of keeping something close to the chest, like a secret, right? Like long ago, it had this meaning of secretive, right? And so it's sort of like it's like this imagery of being like, no, nobody can see, it's mine, right? So like if these are your hands, you're like, nope, I'm holding it close to the chest, nobody can see, don't look. And so because it has this meaning of chest now, here it shows up in this character for milk, right? Next up. Okay. Are we chikat still? Hello? Okay, next. Okay. So this has the meaning of gathering things together, like things come and gather, or you take things in your hand and gather them together. And then the onyomi that you'll usually see with this is teki, right? So teki, right? Pretty easy to remember. Okay. Right. So this character is about like being round, circular, or like things that are like wound together neatly, right? And so, for example, here we have wheel. That one's kind of obvious, right? Because a wheel is round, or it wouldn't be able to roll the way it does. And then this one is theory, and this is about like something that logically ties together, right? It's like A equals B equals C, therefore my theory is sound, right? And then we have in our memo tokoro, in our memo spot, we have don and di often show up, right? So donni, for example, theory. なんだろう、法輪上. Okay, next one. Wrong remote. Okay, so this character can be ascribed the meaning box because of the way that it shows up in these different kanji that have to do with like boxes and layers. And the yomikata that shows up a lot is so or zo. So here we have zo, so, zo. I think nikumu also has zo. And so, hold on, I think I had a specific memorization for this one. Oh, I had memorizations for the previous two as well. Okay. So for memorizing the shapes of like more complex ones, like for example, this one I have pick out the best fruit from the tree with your nails, right? Pick out the best fruit from the tree with your nails. This is sort of like what the I Love Kanji book is all about. You know, it's taking these little parts and putting them together to memorize. And then for this one, I have stand, right? Tatsu, stand, gathered together. In the old, right? Furui. And then this character is a house. In the old house. Stand gathered together in the old house. Gather together. Okay. And then for this one, we have, I have a round hat. This is supposed to be a hat. I have a round hat and one book, right? Isatsu, right? Just like kono isatsu de gyokakusuru. Isatsu, one book. I have a round hat and one book. Round. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. And then this one, we have, so there's a couple different pieces in play here. So we have this piece up here. Ding, ding. That's supposed to be two hands raising something up, right? Raise. And then this piece here, ba, 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 you may be familiar with from a rice field, right? Rice paddy. And then ba, 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 we have the sun. So we're going to say, raise the box and drop it in the rice field at sunset. Raise the box and drop it in the rice field at sunset. Raise box, rice field, sunset. Okay, next up. So this tsukuri has that meaning of decide. It also comes up here. It used to have a meaning of like splitting things apart. And that's why it ended up meaning decide. Because it was like, oh, like, if I can like hakkiri nanka wakeru, you know, like if I can break things apart, kind of like the same image of like, you know, like when you're doing like analysis of things, it's like you break it into its simplest parts, then you're able to make a decision. You know, you say it's this way or it's that way. And that's why we get decide. And so it shows up here in this kanji with the same meaning, decide. This one is used, well, this one's kanji and this one's tsukuri. So this may actually be, I mean, in all likelihood, this is also a kanji, but it's not really used in words, like on its own. So there's no need to memorize it as a kanji, like with its own readings. But the readings that can help you are if you remember that when it ends up in kanji, it can often have the readings of ketsu or kai, right? So here it has ketsu, like a ketsumatsu, something like that. And here in kai, in gladly that we saw earlier, right? So it's the heart and decide. Decide gladly with your heart, right? When it's easy to make a decision, you feel glad in your heart. And so, what else was I going to explain? Okay, so now the way to remember the shape is we take this piece in the middle, because that looks like a person, right? That looks like something we know, person. And then this looks like the katakana you, right? So let's say a person named you decided to leave or decided to eat cake. A person named you decided to go. Okay. Okay, let's. How are we doing on time? So, 今からもっと続ける? 今から? Okay, we're gonna go a little bit longer. All right, next up. So this is beast. And this one actually has a pretty interesting naritachi because like a couple different things are happening here. So first of all, this is, we're going to learn it a bit later, but it basically means it could be used to represent a skull or a heart. It's basically like this mark in a box. And like one of the meanings of it is like bad heart. どうした？どういうこと？これ？ Okay. This is the head of the beast. And then this is supposed to be its legs, and this is its tail. So it's supposed to be like a beast with like this big head and the long tail, and these are its legs. And it's like, you know? And then this is a hat. So it's a beast with a big head, long tail, and a hat, right? And it shows up here in this kanji apart. And the way I like to think of it is that we have the beast, and then who's that guy? We know him. That's bird. So we have a beast and a bird. Well, the beast is this big, and the bird is like over here, like, I'm just a tiny little baby. And so the bird is going to move away from the beast. The bird's going to be like, peace out, I'm out. So they're separating from each other. They're moving apart. Okay, next up. Okay. Thread woven together. Right. Okay. So this next character has this meaning of combining or pairing things together. And the naritachi of this one is that it's supposed to be like a thing of thread woven together. So it's like, here's like, if you like made something out of yarn and you like collect it all like that. So it's like the yarn is connecting together like this. So there's just like a bunch of yarn woven together, you know, like knitting or whatever. And so then here in our memo, we have ko. So it shows up here, ko, lecture, and ko, structure. And the reasoning behind that is that this is, because this is made of this thread in this way, it's this imagery of combining things in a logical order, combining things in a way that's easy to understand. That's why it's here used in lecture, right? Because when you give a lecture, you're combining all these different pieces of information in like a logical flow of like, oh, you know, first we're going to go over this, and then that builds up to this and that. And then the same thing here with structure, right? Like the structure of a speech or an essay. You know, you start with your intro, and then, you know, you guys remember like middle school or high school when you had to do this stuff, like intro and, you know, your body, your thesis and your body paragraphs and your conclusion, your clincher or whatever. That's why here, again, we have things, elements that are combined in a very logical, structured order. Okay, next up. Here we have this end or finish. Here, the reading is ryo. So we have ryo, and this is the like dorm that you stay in, a dormitory. And this is used in like treatment or healing of sickness. And this one more is about the reading, right? There's not so much association with the meaning. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Let me check my notes. Oh, hold on. I have a way to memorize this one. Okay. Okay. So let's break this into parts. We have, let me check. Okay. So here, this is like a fire. Oh yeah, let me explain. Okay, so this is like a fire that's burning. This is a fire that burns. Here's a fire. Here's one. Here's the sun. And here's small. So this is a fire that's burning, right? And there's the sun. And here's the one piece. So one character, a fire, the sun, and small. And what's happening here is the sun, oh, why did it go away? The sun set after our small fire finished burning, right? So it's like the fire burns and burns, but it can't burn eternally. It will eventually burn out. So our small fire finished burning once the sun set, right? Our one small fire finished burning after the sunset, or whatever order you like. Yeah, but so when you break it up into pieces, it's a lot easier to understand, I think. Okay, next up. So this is not or don't. It's like negative of like, this does not exist, or I don't have this, I lack it. And the readings that often show up are bo, baku, and maku. And we have bo, baku, baku, maku. And okay, so here we have grass, right? Like, so this is the ground and this is grass peeking out, right? And then this is the sun, right? Sun. And then this is big, right? So okay. So the big sun is not here because it's set under the grass, right? So it's like, here's the sun, right? The sun is usually the highest in the sky, but now it's under the grass. You know, it went under the horizon. Is our grass? Oh, the sun's set. The big old Mr. Sun. He said he's not here anymore. He's under the grass. Okay, next we have this character, which has the meaning of dance. And so this one, when I looked it up, it was actually pretty fun because this is like literally the image of a person, like their body, like like contorted, like they're dancing, you know? Like, I can't do it, but like, that's what it's supposed to be, a person being like, ooh. And then this is supposed to be them wearing a mask. Because they're dancing, they're entertaining people, right? So they're like, ooh. And then here it shows up in mistake. And then it also shows up in this, which means like entertainment, amusement, right? So it's like you have the woman dancing for people's amusement. And then we have this reading of go that often shows up. Go, go, gokai. Okay. Next, we have another character that means gathering together, right? It can mean gathering multiple things together. You know, like gathering all of like the smallest parts. And then here it has this meaning of like simple, pure, as in like, you know, like a pure element, you know, like pure hydrogen or pure helium, right? It's sort of like this collection of pieces into their purest form, right? You know, it's like all that's gathered here is, you know, the protons and neutrons and electrons, right? Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Next we have, oh, I forgot about the way to memorize the shape. Sorry about that. This is actually supposed to be the image of a little kid with their hair tied up. So here's a little kid, yay! And then this is supposed to be their hair tied up. So this is like a little scrunchie. And the little kid's like, yee. And if you think about it, you know, little kids, you think of them as being, you know, pure, innocent, you know, they are what they are. Okay, next we have this, which means big belly. It's like a person with a big stomach, right? And so if we look at the picture, here we have our legs, right? We saw our legs before. And then here, what's happening at the top is supposed to be that big stomach. So here's the person with their legs and there's the big stomach. And then it could also be like, when I was researching, it could also have that meaning of like a woman who's pregnant, right? It's like there's something inside the stomach. Like it's a big, for some reason the stomach is big. And so we have big belly. Here it shows up in the word for stomach. And a reading that is often comes from this tsukuri is fuku. So we have here, fuku, fuku, fuku. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, next up. Okay, this next character is pile or stack because it's the image of things that are just stacked on top of each other, right? It's like I take a box and I stack, and I stack, and I stack. And the reading that happens often with this one is so. So we have so here, so here. Like we saw this one before, which was like ancestors. And so it's you're showing the stack of goods that you brought for your ancestors, right? It's like you go to the grave and you're like, here, this is for you. And they're like, oh, thanks, from heaven or whatever. And then this is, I believe, used in soshiki, which is an organization, a gathering of people. So it's like we have all of these groups of people forming a stack. And then the thread represents the connection between them, right? So it's like these people are all gathered together in a group, and then we're putting them in their little categories. Be like, you're in the sales department, and you're in the marketing department, and you're in the creative department. Yeah, some are weird. Some it really takes like a creative imagination. But that's what we're trying to learn here. You know, it's like because kanji are so old and like the way that we imagine, you know, a dog today might not look like that. But, you know, because language has been established, we just accept that that's a dog. And now if we can accept that with this shape and we learn what the meanings are for these, it becomes a lot easier to, why can I not open my pen? It becomes a lot easier to memorize the meanings of kanji. Where is my pen? Oh, pen, please come to me. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh, this book especially, like if you have trouble creating your own ways to memorize kanji, it's all here, you know? Like teaching you this mindset of looking at the pieces of kanji and coming up with ways to memorize things for yourself. It's like you can use this on your own, you know? You can be like, oh, this looks like the sun, and I learned this, you know, this is the thing for gathering, and this is, and then you can put it together yourself as well. But if that sounds like too much work, they're all right here. Okay, so next up, yes. Okay, so next up we're on thorn, right? And so this, we have a character, we have like the character for tree, and then here we have the sharp thorn that you get pricked on, right? It's like, ooh, it hurts, right? So this is the sharp bit. So it's like a thorn sticking off a plant. And then this here, we get this kanji for stab, right? Because we're being stabbed by a sharp blade or a thorn, right? Sharp blade or a thorn, ow, stabbed. Okay, so this is supposed to represent a monkey. There's a different kanji for monkey, but this is like the same concept of, it's basically a monkey with a big head. We saw this before, similar to beast, where we have this head, but the beast is like bad. The beast is bad, so he has this kanji, which is like bad or bad heart, evil. But this one's just a regular monkey, so he just has a big head. So we have a big head, the legs, and a long tail, right? And so we have our monkey, and then we have here our reading is gu. Hold on. Hold the phone. Okay. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Let me check my notes. Monkey with a big head and long tail. Yep. And then here we have our reading gu, which is coming up here and here. All right. I don't know why the screen keeps getting cut in and tapped. Okay. Next up. Okay, this one has a bit of explanation to it. This one, now it has this meaning of dragon associated with it, but back in the day, it had a meaning of like, you know those like little like clam things that dig into the sand with like their little legs? You know, sometimes they're called, I think in Australia they're called pippies. In New York, we would call them angelfish. But they're basically these little things that look like tiny clams, and then they stick like their little like weird feet things out, and then they dig into the sand. You know, they're like, ew. That's what this is supposed to be. That's what this was meant to be. And to explain how we got to dragon and how we got to farming, there's a couple different steps. So first off, these, the shells of these things used to be used as tools in farming, you know, because they're very good for digging and stuff like that. Right? So the farmers are like, hey, these are great These are going to help us make these really great cultivated fields. Everything's going so swell. And so using these like little clam things became associated with a good, bountiful harvest, right? Because they were like, oh, we don't have to do this with our hands. We can use these tools. Everything's great. We got so much food. And so because of that meaning of a good, bountiful harvest, this idea of the dragon also had these meanings of like prosperity, good harvest, like good, like strength and good things happening. And so over time, the association between the good harvest caused by the shells was ascribed to the dragon. And that's why this shape now has that meaning associated with it of dragon. And so here you can see it showing up in the kanji for cultivate because it has that meaning, right? Ta-da! Couple different steps. Anyway, this reading, shin, shows up here in these two kanji. And these two kanji have a meaning of shake, right? Like jishin or like a furu. We will save it. It will show up. It should show up on the channel right after we finish. So I hope even if you can't hang out with us now, watch it later, get some studying done. Okay. Okay, next up. Oh, wait, I had a memorization technique for that one. Pause. Okay. Here, one dragon. Here we have one. One dragon stretches his legs. Here's his legs in his room, right? So this piece here on the outside, I like to think of that as like a room because it's like instead of 4 walls, it's like just some walls. So it opens out into the rest of the room. So we got room, and then we get one, and then we get legs. So we have the dragon stretches, the one dragon stretches his legs in his room, right? Okay. Hang on one sec. Wait a second. What is it? Okay. Okay. So today we are going to wrap it up here, but don't worry because there are still many kanji to go, many tsukuri, many bushu to learn. I have lots of content prepared for more lessons. I think we should be streaming again tomorrow, more next week. I hope you'll join us then. I hope you enjoyed today. The video will be up after this. And then I hope, you'll give this at least a look-see. It's available for pre-order now on Amazon. We all worked so hard on this. We, really like every day just trying to make it as perfect as possible, as easy as possible, like as easy to understand. Like it's all in English, but we really went out of our way to make sure that even people who aren't English natives can understand it super easily. Yeah, so, I hope you'll check it out. I hope you have a good rest of your day. If you're going to bed, good night. If it's the morning, have a great day at work. Goodbye.